Hello, Rob from Fountain Pen Journey, which is kind of almost becoming writing equipment journey. I'm going to talk about this. Yes, it's a BIC Biro. This is the BIC Cristal. If you don't recognise it, then my God, what are you doing watching a pen video? There's something weird there. Everyone must surely know this writing implement. I'm a fountain pen user, have been for 7 years. In my 7th year, I ended up in a situation where I was not able to use fountain pens. For personal reasons, we had stuff going on, and it was like, honestly, I cannot be bothered with the hassle that fountain pens can create. It's part of having and using fountain pens. That hassle, that cleaning, the refilling of ink, regular refilling of ink. In fact, sometimes it can be onerous. You go down, you've got half an hour. You're going to do your journaling. You need to do the journaling. You're doing your de-stressing, writing your thoughts of the day, all these other things. And then your fountain pen runs out of ink. And then you've got to get up, find the ink bottle. If it's not on your desk, I don't journal on a desk, I do my journaling in bed. And it is such a massive faff. And I ended up using this. This is the Parker Jotter. Cheap, refillable, takes Parker G2 refills. Clicky ballpoint pen. You can also get gel refills for these and other colours and all the rest of it. This is the Parker G2 refill, Standard International. And I started using this pen, and I was, as a fountain pen user, blown away. First off, from the second I did this, there isn't a single capless fountain pen with the mechanism anywhere near that good. And then I started writing with it, and I was like, what the hell have I just done for the last 7 years? Writing with fountain pens, because I can't touch a BIC. I can't use a ballpoint, can't possibly be a ballpoint pen user. So, first impressions of the Parker Jotter were hugely successful. But I'm a fountain pen user through and through, and I've got back into fountain pens recently. But I did use a BIC Cristal, which is this pen. What are my first impressions of a fountain pen, of a BIC Cristal as a fountain pen user? So let's do a review of the BIC Cristal. But I'm taking this from the point of view of a fountain pen user, so I manage my expectations. First off, I'm going to use rhodia paper, just because it's what you use for fountain pens. So this is going to be interesting. I've never used a BIC Cristal on rhodia paper. So I'm coming to this. I'm a fountain pen user. Could be you. I'm being somebody else right now. I'm in the office. Something needs my writing on it. A bit of paper. There's a very good chance that I'm going to be that oddball fountain pen user, and let's face it, there's quite a lot of us out there. I've done it myself, so I'm not just casting aspersions. I've been that oddball fountain pen user who goes, oh, I've got to write something. Let me walk back to my desk to get my fountain pen. Yes, I must go and get my fountain pen because you've asked me to write something. Do you realise how weird that sounds? How much time it takes when somebody's like, I need your signature. Oh, well, let me go back to my desk to get my fountain pen. People don't appreciate it. They see you as being very weird. And then, worst of all, this is the terrible situation that I've seen people admit online. I did it myself once, and never again. I got some ballpoint pens out of the office stationery cupboard and stuck them in my bag so that if ever anyone asked me to sign a birthday card or a leaving card for somebody, I wasn't the silly fountain pen user who got their fountain pen with the funny ink and decided to scribble, "So long, you've done really great work here, we'll miss you," in my fountain pen with my fountain pen ink, only for that ink to smear all over the damn place, ruining the card with 30 odd signatures on, and my name is just about legible as well, so it looks a right mess for somebody's leaving card. Don't do it. Please, if you use fountain pens, don't be that person. You're not giving us a good name. So, right, that's that. So, I'm that oddball fountain pen user. Please use this BIC ballpoint. What's a BIC ballpoint? Assuming I don't know because I am so entrenched in the fountain pen world. It's one of these. Ah, that's a Biro. Well, to give it its model name, this is the BIC Cristal. It's been around. It was released in 1950, and of course it was the brainchild of, just look through my notes here. So, introduced in 1950. It's a very long time ago. 75 years ago. This pen has been around for 75 years. That's a lot longer than the Lamy 2000 fountain pen. BIC Cristal, 1950. Quite interesting to get the history behind this. So, a guy called Biro decided that if you use oil-based rather than water-based ink, it's a better ink for general writing purposes. And then this other French chap, well, he decided that he was a manufacturer called Marcel Bich, B-I-C-H, not BIC. But you can see where the BIC Biro comes from. So you've got these two gentlemen saying, well, actually, I think I can make a pen which has a ball in the end that when it makes contact with paper, it rolls and deposits ink on the paper. All we need is a very simple reservoir. This is a plastic thing, this tube. And if you put your oil-based ink in that ink reservoir, and I stick a sort of nib thing which holds this ball in the end, we have a pen. And what did they do then? They invented this. This was the brand name, the BIC Cristal. So, I mean, apparently 100 billion of these BIC Cristal ballpoint pens have been sold to date, which is absolutely staggering. I'm going to talk about plastic and waste as part of this review, so don't freak out. So let's look at it from a review point of view. This is me reviewing the BIC Cristal as I would do a fountain pen. What do I think? Well, it's incredibly light. I mean, this is stupidly light. Really, really light. Size, well, it's quite a small, slim, straight pen with this plastic cap. TWSBI Eco next to it for comparison. Much bigger pen, much heavier pen. But yeah, it's a pen. It has this breather hole, which I believe was introduced in the 80s. I don't know actually. No, probably wasn't. I know the hole in the cap that was introduced in the 80s when us Gen X decided that we were going to try and kill ourselves in school by swallowing these caps. We'd put them in the mouth and swallow them, and they get stuck in a windpipe. But it was supposed to provide this breathability, so a means of breathing, so we didn't choke ourselves to death. I have since heard some rumours that actually that's not what it was all about, but I've not really been able to find out much about it. But anyway, BIC Cristal. Crystal because it is clear, colourless, transparent barrel. And it has this BIC refill, oil-based ink in the middle. You can get them in blue, black, red and green. It's got a finial, the cap and the finial, like fountain pen. You see, this is caps, finials, talking about it in fountain pen speak. Cap is plastic, black matches the ink. So you know what you're picking up. Doesn't matter whether it's that way up in a pen holder or that way, you know which colour ink you're about to pick up. And it contains this refill. Now these refills are refills. Majority of people, out of the 100 billion of these pens sold, majority of people probably just threw it in the bin, and got another one out of the pack. Dirt cheap. You know, I mean, they cost pence. You can buy a pack of 12 or something for a couple of quid. I mean, it's crazy how cheap these are. So mass produced, but so utterly unchanged and reliable, other than the hole in the top, which once again, remember, that's not, you know, it's not going to stop this thing, it's not going to make this thing dry out. Oil-based ink. You will always get a hard start with all ballpoint pens, so I'm not going to start moaning about that. And of course, it's so simple. Plastic body, finial inserted into the back, which of course anyone who's ever spent time in school with these knows that you can actually eventually sort of get these out, and then you can pull out that bit, and then you can use it for all sorts of nefarious purposes. So yeah, I'm not going to say that, otherwise this video will be immediately demonetized, and YouTube will say that I'm using all sorts of references to things that I should not talk about. So yeah, and you know what, 100 billion of these, throwaway pen, sturdy. Yes, they do break if you sit on it and it's the wrong angle, and if you drop it on the floor, stand on it. No, actually no, not drop it on the floor. If you do stamp on it, it will shatter. This is pretty tough plastic, but it's not invincible. The caps seemingly are. I chewed and twisted the end of one of these all through my college days. But yeah, that's it. So it slips on, slips off. So you can do that. You can post it so you don't lose it, and it's great. It's a good length. Little bit on the narrow side, if I'm absolutely honest, but I'm mainly talking about fountain pens here. The breather hole there in the barrel, that is to allow an air exchange, so that as the ink is being used up, it doesn't just kind of like go running out of air in here and start slowing down the ink flow. It just allows that ink to carry on moving down the plastic thing here. I don't even know what I want to call that. Of course, the other thing is with BIC crystals, they have this sort of browny olive green plastic. All of them do, apart from one which I will talk about in the coming months. And it's kind of like, yeah, it's always that. Now, we talked about people throwing away these pens. No, you must use a fountain pen because these are generating plastic waste. Realise how many TWSBI Eco boxes I have from collecting TWSBI Eco fountain pens? Lots and lots. Huge amount of packaging sits there. Very good chance that at some point I'm going to go, I've got boxes full of these boxes, and I'm going to throw them away. So it's not really sustainable. It's not good for the environment. It's not necessary. But you see, no, fountain pens, you know, they use ink. You don't have to use cheap plastic pens. Well, yeah, once again, I'm a fountain pen collector. I'm going to end up with lots of fountain pens, which aren't going to be used all the time. If this was the only fountain pen I had, and I just refilled it out of one bottle of ink for the rest of my life, yes, that's pretty good sustainability. very few wasted materials. But as a collector, I've got boxes and boxes of fountain pen boxes. I've got boxes of ink in bottles, some of which are plastic, which generally isn't recyclable, certainly not in the UK. And it's a bit of a stupid one, really, because then you go, well, it's all right. No, use ink cartridges. Ink cartridges contain more plastic than that does, and those ink cartridges are also going to run out within a week of writing. Say, this will write for ages. I'm talking weeks, months. It doesn't dry out or anything. And you know what the strange thing is, and this is going to come as a shock to you if you know this pen and you've been throwing them away all your life. The BIC Cristal, you can buy these refills. You can buy like a box of 100 for about £14 on Amazon. You can get blue ones, black ones, red ones, green ones. You can get the fine. This is a 1.0mm ball in the tip, so this is kind of like a medium. And it's nuts. You could use the same barrel and just buy the refills. Nobody even seems to know about it. So let's do the writing sample. Let's see how this works as a fountain pen user. So I'm going to expect a hard start, as with all ballpoints, but what I always do is just get a bit of scrap paper somewhere, back of the journal, just do that. Okay, so BIC Cristal, spelt that way, BIC Cristal 1.0mm black. Now, oil-based ink, and it lays it down perfectly well enough. I'm having to use a little bit of pressure there to give you a good representation, but it doesn't take a lot of pressure to write with. It's a ballpoint, so you can really press down on the paper and squeeze out some ink. You can just gently touch it and it still writes. You get a finer line and a broader line from the same pen, 1mm ball at the end. So I'd kind of call this a medium for once of a fountain pen analogy phrase there. So that is kind of it. Do a writing sample, quick brown fox jumps over lazy dog. You know what? This pen will write at all sorts of angles too. And only a bit of smearing, oil-based ink. If I do this, leave it for a bit, that is not going to smear. If it gets wet, there's a very good chance it's not going to run. I mean, it's crazy sometimes. I've eschewed the ballpoint and BIC Cristal because I can't possibly use a ballpoint pen, certainly not a BIC Cristal. It's been around for 75 years. Army 2000 isn't that old, and that is one of the older, sort of still in production fountain pens. And they're both in the, I can't remember which museum it is now, New York Museum of Design, something like that. Army 2000, yes, it's in there. I've always been going on about this, you know, it's such an iconic 60s modernist Bauhaus design. Army 2000, what a fantastic fountain pen. BIC Cristal is also in there. Why? Because it is so ubiquitous, unchanging. It does exactly what you need it to do. Posted, length. Look at that. I mean, it writes. And it's, yeah. Oh, the only thing that I will say against this is that, yes, for longer writing sessions, I find it a little bit, it's one of those pens that I often find that I've ended up gripping a bit more. You end up with indentations in your fingers, a bit like that. There we go, indentations. But I do believe that the main reason for that is that I like saturated inks. And this ink is BIC ink is not particularly saturated. I mean, as far as black ballpoints go, it's not the best. It really isn't the best. But it's not bad and it's functional. And going back to fountain pens, if I went, oh, I'm a fountain pen user, and I was my colleague, well, how about you write with this BIC ballpoint, this BIC Biro? And I go, no, I'm a fountain pen user. I don't want to write with this silly pen. Throw it across the room. I can guarantee this will not have a cap full of ink. And pretty much guarantee it won't break. It doesn't matter which fountain pen you've got. If you do that with a fountain pen, if you go, this meeting's so awful, I can't stand this, what's being said in this meeting, I've had enough, I'm storming out. That fountain pen cap is going to be full of ink, guaranteed. And I've also had a pretty robust Jinhao fountain pen, I think it might have been a X450, roll off a desk. It rolled off the desk onto the floor. Not even a hard floor, it was a carpet tiled floor. And it landed down there. And ever since then, the capping mechanism hasn't quite been the same. It still caps, but it doesn't work. This isn't going to break. It really isn't. So the BIC Cristal, there's a reason why it is such a popular pen all these many years later, and there is a reason why, as an avid fountain pen user, I can't really say this is a terrible pen. You know, you've got to be absolutely objective about this. It writes, it's reliable, it writes for a very long time, it's dirt cheap, and weirdly you can buy refills for them. You can get them in black, blue, red and green. There are other special edition versions of the BIC Cristal style pen, which I will talk about in the coming months, because Fountain Pen Journey has found that sometimes writing implements can be just as interesting. So we will talk about other writing implements in Fountain Pen Journey in the coming months, but I will also be talking about fountain pens. So there you go, review of the BIC Cristal. As far as I'm aware, I've never seen a review of the BIC Cristal. Why? Because nobody's ever needed one. Everyone just goes out and buys one. So yeah, just the straight 1.0mm BIC Cristal ballpoint pen. Thanks very much for watching. See you next time. Bye.